The Truth Girls.
Hi everyone, it's Truth Girl Sonia here. A woman was filmed dragging her child through the street, and this caused a big stir online. She has come out and said, I'm not a bad mom. A woman filmed dragging child, age 4, in street insists, quote, it's the only way to move her autistic son. And I have quite a bit to say about this because that woman, that was me, except I wasn't dragging my son. But when my son, who's also autistic, was younger, that was him. This is the kind of kid that I've been raising, the kind that will lie down and not move, the most uncooperative kind of child. And my son is what they call high functioning, but don't let that mislead you into thinking that high functioning means easier to handle. Not necessarily, because your child can be very high functioning and yet have very severe behavior problems. I want to show you some footage from my son when he was young, just so you can understand how difficult it really can be to deal with a child like this. I'm not going to judge her as a bad person, but I will say that this is not acceptable. But it also shows how desperate she is and that how unable she is to cope with her situation. She's a single mother, and I'm also kind of a single mother. I mean, I do have a husband, but we're not in the same apartment. My husband's in a wheelchair, so if you know, this is hard for a person who's walking, so you can imagine a person in a wheelchair deal with a child like this. Like, it's really impossible. So it was down to me to basically deal with having him in tow. It's not easy. I understand why she's dragging him. I don't think it's okay that she's doing it, but rather than just judge her and say, well, she must be a bad person, I think we need to look at why she's in a situation that exceeds her capacity as a parent. Just because you gave birth to an autistic child, it doesn't mean you've suddenly been imbued with superhuman qualities. You're still just human, you're still a parent, and there will be situations where it's beyond what you can cope with, and obviously this is the case here. It's easy to judge and just say, well, if I was in her situation, I would do this, I would do that. Well, honestly, if you haven't been in her situation, you don't really know what you would do. I know I wouldn't drag my kid in the street. I haven't. But let's just say there are no easy solutions. And obviously, it's just like you can't do this alone. A single parent with a child with severe behavior problems, where's the support? And I'm going to show you some footage from my son when he was younger and what I had to deal with. And a spoiler alert, he's now 10 years old and this has gotten a lot better. So that's what I want to give you some hope if you're in that situation. It can get better. Well, in our case, it's gotten a lot better. It's not perfect, and he still has a huge amount of trouble at school. But it's gotten a lot more manageable. I'm going to show you some footage, and I just want to say he was in a stroller till he was like 4 because he was completely unmanageable. And once I got him out of the stroller, it just became really hard to do anything. And this isn't only when you're out, you know, this is when you're just trying to leave the house. Every day, just trying to get your kid dressed, get them to keep their clothes on, get them to just go through the door. Just that part, just getting out, is a huge struggle, and it could take like an entire hour just to move from the hallway out of the house. And number 2, when you're on the street, maybe they don't want to go where you're going. Maybe they're just anxious about their environment.
Yeah, I know, that's because you keep doing that.
Sometimes they get hung up on something. They gotta, you know, they say autistic people have rituals, but it doesn't mean it's always the same ritual. It's like in my son's case, he'll come up with rituals like on the spot.
Let's see about the truck,
like he has to do this or that related to the cars or the street or whatever. It's gotten a bit better, but when he was younger, he did a lot more of it, and it was very inflexible. So you're walking down the street and your kid gets hung up on something,
Gunner, you have to get up.
and you want to say, come on, let's go. But you know what? Turns out it's not that easy.
Gunner, don't scratch me. Get up.
And you can forget about using a strong arm approach. It's only going to make it worse. Finally, you get them up, you walk a few more feet, and then, you know, it happens again.
What's the matter? I'll get you a treat at the store.
And then you get inside somewhere and you're trying to buy something.
Oh, you're going to hurt yourself.
You know, they're down again.
No.
And then you're going to have to get them back out.
Don't run away. Don't run away.
Or you're walking down the street. Like this one time I was trying to get my son to go to the park. to play, and he didn't want to go. It turned out later, you see, he didn't say this at the time because autistic children don't communicate well, but at the time he was afraid because that was the direction of the hospital, and he was afraid I was going to take him there and get a blood test. So I didn't know why, but he was doing this. He just wouldn't walk. He was holding on to a wall, but he wouldn't say anything about why. Or I could have just reassured him.
Let go.
You know, when your autistic child doesn't want to go, they just don't. Well, this kind of child, they don't want to go. You really just can't make them.
Let's go. Get up.
And
What are you doing?
and the other thing that he would do is he would run.
Gunny, this way, this way.
He would just run. He would just bolt in every direction.
Okay, okay. Gunner!
Either he was lagging because he was playing around, fooling around with something,
Careful, careful. Get down.
or he was down on the ground refusing to move,
Get up. We have to go get our spaghetti. Come on, Gunny.
or he was running ahead.
I know, I can't hear you. Say, speak louder, because he's running all over the place. No, I'm still trying to get him down the street. Can I just call you when I get home?
The one thing my son was never doing was just
But you were
walking
very
beside
good, and
me.
she
Well,
gave you a
almost
sticker.
never.
No timeout. Let me see your sticker. Yay!
And so in my experience, there were a few things that bring this out. You know, the underlying issue is still there. It still comes out, but sort of in a different way, and we've both learned to deal with it better. One thing was him just being overwhelmed, which could be easily triggered by overwhelming emotion.
Gunner, it's closed. There's nothing we can do. No, 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 no. I'm sorry, but it's closed on Mondays. Gunner.
Sensory overload, or even just something as simple as being hungry or tired.
Gunner, you need to eat something.
When he was hungry, he was just completely impossible.
Stop. You need to eat something.
On the
That's not
sensory
going
end,
on,
it could be
right?
something as simple as a problem with
Do
his
it again.
shoes.
Put your shoes on. Put your shoes on, Gunny.
When you have a child who's autistic who has this level of behavior problems, you have to accept that things are going to move very, very slowly.
Okay, that's it. You just take a little break. And then when you feel calm again, you can put your shoes on.
Whatever you have to get done in a day, you're going to probably not get most of it done. Everything is going to be like in slow motion, and a lot of things are going to go on the back burner. So let's say you're out with your kid and they start acting up. You know, you can't just grab them and be like, now listen here, blah, 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 because they've lost their executive function. If you do that, they're just going to go completely feral. They're going to attack you. They're going to lie on the ground more. There were times where my son went into this mode, like completely lost his executive function, like trying to run, but I can't get him home. It's just completely out of control. I had to hold him on the ground. And he was so big and heavy, I couldn't just pick him up. And if I had picked him up, I couldn't have gone very far. And if I'd had him up, he probably would have been, you know, headbutting me in the face or biting me or something. I had to hold him there. I felt so helpless just holding him on the sidewalk. I was thinking maybe if I could just get him some orange juice, get his blood sugar up a little, maybe then he'll get his head screwed back on right, you know, but I didn't have any orange juice. I'm holding him there, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I finally just like flagged a couple of guys down. I said, could you please help me bring my son home? They had to pick him up. It took 2 men to pick him up and carry him. It was the only thing I could do. Why did I let him get so hungry? Well, I didn't let him. It's just that he was very uncooperative. His constant fixations and meltdowns made it really hard to get him in and out of anywhere and to get him fed. It took a long time to figure out how to work around this. And sometimes, you know, you got something you want to do. You want to go to the amusement park. You have an outing plan. Doesn't matter. This behavior happens all the time. So there was one time my son, and we were trying to get to the amusement park, like a theme park, and he was just melting down over his shoes, over whatever. And in those cases, sometimes you just have to sit down right where you are and just take a break. And let him take his shoes off and give him a drink. And you have to be extremely patient. I mean, this was my experience. Trying to rush it, trying to make things happen. Sometimes it just wasn't going to happen. And we had to just sit down, and I'd give him something to drink and give him some time, you know, to chill out. Don't talk too much. And then eventually maybe you can get back to what you were going to do, or maybe you can't and you just have to cancel it. And it's not like your run-of-the-mill stubbornness. You can't deal with it the way you would with a typical kid. That could really backfire. And I'm not showing you this footage so you can be like, oh, poor you. It's just because I want you to understand. I want you to understand what it's like. I'm hoping maybe you'll have more compassion. Maybe you'll be motivated to maybe help someone that you know who has a severely autistic child, instead of just being like, oh, you're a bad mom that you have to, you know, you're dragging your kid down the street. Maybe you'll offer to go and get her groceries or something like that. And the other thing is just for general public awareness that people who are in this situation really need support, not just for their sake, but for the sake of their kids. But let's just not be so quick to judge. Just want to tell you, I've been through it. Happy to say things have gotten a lot better. At school, again, still has issues, but it's nothing like when he was 5 or 6. It's gotten a lot better. So that's it. A, it's gotten better, and B, don't be too quick to judge. And if you know someone who has a child with this level of behavioral issues, instead of judging them, maybe you can offer to help, because chances are they need help. So that's it. Let me know what you think. Thanks for giving me a thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting my work on Patreon. And thank you for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.